Beloved, welcome back to the shop. Now, if you followed me for any length of time, you will know that I am a big fan of Snap-on tools. I bought my very first Snap-on tools when I was still a senior in high school, working as an outboard motor mechanic at a part-time job in a marina, and that's where I bought my very first set. My grandfather was a mechanic for Ford. He used Snap-on tools. I grew up working in his garage, and so I was indoctrinated from an early age. I feel that they're the best. However, they are so shockingly expensive, they are outside the ability of, outside of the desire for most guys to get. However, for years, I've had my subscribers tell me that you can buy the exact same wrench made by Snap-on, only it's branded by the Caterpillar Equipment Company. Now, is that true? How could that be true? And why do we not know this? Well, today we're going to find out. I have in my hot little hands a Caterpillar wrench, and we're going to do a side-by-side comparison. We're going to check prices and see if that is indeed the case. Shout out to my brother Carson, fellow creator, Thrifty Garage. Go subscribe to him. I'll put a link down below. He realized that I had a broken wrench, and I for years have been trying to track a Snap-on truck down, and I wasn't able to, and he very graciously sent me a replacement 10mm. However, it is a Caterpillar. So let's take a look at the prices and then get into the nitty-gritty and find out if indeed these are the same thing for 167% less than Snap-on. All right, gentlemen, let us check the Google. Are you like me and find that Google is almost a useless search? All it does is just serve curated ads and garbage. I don't know how they're going to survive, to be honest with you. I use ChatGPT and Grok now for my search engine, and I don't think I'm the only one. Let me know in the comments if that's you too. I find Google just to be almost just useless. I pulled the part numbers off both of the wrenches. This is the exact wrench that I have in my set. This is the 12-point metric flank drive. One 10mm wrench is $42.75. Now, if we flip over here to the cat page, we see different part number, but 10mm combination wrench, same 12-point, looks the same, looks almost identical, $16.09. Now that is a big difference. If I did my math right, that's roughly 165% more for the Snap-on than the cat. Now, to make this understandable for East Coast man, that would mean that for one Snap-on wrench, you could have this many cat wrenches right here. By harnessing the power of the electron microscope, we can see a side-by-side comparison up close. Now you'll notice this is not the 10, this is the 11. I gave the 10 to my friend who occasionally sees a Snap-on guy, see if he can run him down, so this is the closest I have, but you get the point. They're all about the same. So right off the bat, they're not the same. Certainly not in form factor. If you look here, do you see that ridge right there? This one, the cat, is quite a bit thicker, not as thin. Now, is that a negative or a positive? Well, as far as aesthetics go and just giving me the fizz and just the classic Snap-on look, it is a negative, but this wrench is probably going to be more stronger. My grandfather, a lifetime mechanic, always complained that Snap-on wrenches were too sharp, and when you're really pulling on one, how it would hurt the hand. I have not found that to be the case. I think that they feel good in the hand, and I think that they're just perfect. Now, a little side note, the reason why I don't have the 10mm, my son, when he was a teenager a couple of years ago, had a really tight bolt, and he actually, instead of using the box end like he should have, he used the open end, and he pulled on it so hard that he actually snapped that lower jaw off before, and the bolt never stripped. That gives you a little indicator on how hard and tight these flank drive wrenches hold. Now, speaking of flank drive, we see the next difference right here. If you look inside, right there, you'll see those ridges. They're really pronounced. They're very, I think that's what they call the flank drive. They're very, well, they're clean and nice cuts. Now that is a proprietary design, and that's the reason why, or one of the reasons why these wrenches can hold so well, and why professional mechanics rely on them. Now if we look at the cat, it too has some of the grooves, but not all of them. Not all of the grooves. They're not as clean. The plating is not quite as nice, and they're more of a suggestion rather than intentional. And that may seem like a small thing, and maybe to the average mechanic, but for guys that rely upon these tools professionally and they're working for flat rate where time is money, slipping or stripping a bolt when you're up underneath something where it's critical, where it could take you hours to drill out, that right there is why you pay the extra money. So that's kind of an interesting side note. So that's really the two things I noticed. Now this extra thickness here, that's just a little bit less machining, and that's going to bring costs down. But as far as the roll marks, I mean, they're really clean and tight. The chrome finishing on both of them are very nice. Also, I noticed inside the 12 point, it's a little bit hard to tell with this one, this 11, because it's been so used, this being brand new. So the best thing I could do is I brought out one that I've recently purchased, a 17 millimeter. And the chrome plating and finishes and just the machining, it seems a little crisper on the Snap-on, this being a nearly new, for all intents and purpose, wrench compared to the Cat. But this could just be my wishful thinking. But overall, I mean, you'd have to make a call on that. Is this one, are those differences worth the incredible price difference? Would you rather have over two and a half sets of the Cat than the Snap-on? You know, that's personal judgment right there. Knowing what I know now, would I be content if I was starting over to buy the Cat, knowing they're made by Snap-on, know that they're probably a high quality tool? I would not. I would not. Not if I was going to be using it professionally. Those little differences, the details, are the difference between the extraordinary and the average. You take a guy that's a line cook at a regular greasy spoon. Can he cook? Can he do eggs? Can he do cordon bleu? Of course he can. But the difference between him and a Michelin restaurant chef are those details, that attention to detail that make all of the difference. I'm not saying that there's not a place for a greasy spoon. You know, for example, boots. Going on a wildland fire, for example, I would never, ever go with anything less than a Nix or a White's, a handmade Oregon Pacific Northwest boot. Now, I see guys out there with Danners, with Hawthorns. Sometimes you do what you got to do, but given a choice, I'm always going to go with the best that I can. If I'm making my living with it, it's the best that I can afford. I just don't have any room or time for things that just don't live up to the standard. So for people who say, and every time I show Snap-on tools or a Snap-on box, I get a lot of haters. There'll be one of two camps. They either say, oh, Harbor Freight or such and such or Milwaukee's just as good. No, it's not. It's not. If you don't understand the nuances and the little differences, the details, then maybe it looks the same. A wrench is a wrench is a wrench, but it's not. I've worked with tools professionally. I've been up in tight spaces with one chance to get the bolt on the top of a bell housing loose, where if you stripped it, it meant pulling the body or pulling the engine and transmission, and I would not be willing to take the risk for that. And there's just pride of ownership. One thing you'll find is you will never, ever, ever regret buying quality equipment. You never will. You'll forget the price within a short time, and when you have that tool in 10, 20, 50 years, you will never remember what you paid for it. It will always be a treasure to you. And actually, I think you save money because you take care of them. You buy throwaway tools, you leave them here, you leave them there, you leave them outside. It's not that big a deal because you can go replace them easily. And the mindset's completely different. But when you throw down for Snap-on tools, whether you buy them used, even used, they're almost like a commodity. They probably sell for 60% of brand new used, and they always have. It is something it's precious to you and something you take care of. And it's hard to quantify just the amount of fizz and the joy you get every time you pull your toolbox open and you see that, or it's in your hand. AVE said it best. You can be in the worst possible situation, knee-deep in minor piss, and having the worst day of your life working on some godforsaken broken piece of equipment, but at least you've got nice tools to work with. And I will never forget that. That is just so true. When you don't want to do something and you open that box and you see them, the joy and the pride of ownership, it's just hard to beat. So I'll close with this. For any one of these guys that say, oh, Snap-on tools are dumb, I would never buy them, they're no better than anything else, I guarantee you this. If the Snap-on truck rolled up and exchanged or offered to do a swap with whatever brand that they have, I guarantee you that they would gladly do that swap. I'm not saying everything they do is perfect, but as a rule, they really know what they're doing, and it's just, they're a pleasure to use, and that's why I love them so much. Would I recommend you invest in them? Do it over time. I don't have a tremendous set. I don't have one of those gigantic boxes like mechanics do. I'm not pro, I'm a professional homeowner, so that's somewhere in the middle. But acquire them over time, buy them used, buy them on eBay. Sometimes you need to buy a new one when you need it, but I would say yes. And the joy of owning them, the fact that I have a box full of tools that my grandfather has handed down to me speak volumes as to the value and the quality of these tools. Not a paid for ad. I buy these with my own money, never been sponsored. I just love Snap-on tools. I've used them since I was a teenager, and I thought this comparison was fun. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.